Oh, my favorite thing was when they had some of the newer people come on. I can't remember the guy's name. Um, or I just won't divulge it over the air, but like protect the identity. So, but I just remember that one of the guys went in and changed a bunch of stuff and was trying to say it was us. We had a somebody at one of the, well, more like two or three that were doing the same thing. Like, why are you guys changing this stuff? And we're like, yeah, sorry, we're only in there when you guys are paying us to make changes. Like,
Yeah.
we're not
Also,
going to take our time to just go in
WordPress
there and
has a
change
revision
something.
history and shows who made
Yes.
changes most recently and hit
Yes.
save. We don't
Uh,
give you the same login that we have, so it would keep
yup.
track of who's making the changes.
Oh man.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Heading to WP podcast. I believe this is episode 10. We missed a week last week. You know, things happen. It is what it is. But we're back this week to talk about page builders and stuff. But my name is Marcus Burnett, and with me, as always, is TJ Rogers. How you doing today, TJ?
What's up, everyone? I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
I
Been
say pretty good, but it's towards the end of the week, and
yeah.
as we discussed prior to the start of the episode, we're working out and some of the personal goal stuff they take a little bit of a toll, so we'll have to try to get used to some of these newer habits and stuff. But yeah, feeling a little zapped actually. So
Yeah.
good, but still a little zapped.
Lots of early mornings and workout routines and all of the things that are just both mentally and physically draining the last
Absolutely.
week or two. But you know, we're here, we're doing it. So I would call that a win either way.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, Before we get into talking about page builders and full site editing and all of that a little bit, let's start with our usual housekeeping segment and talk a little bit about what we've done in the last week. I guess in this case, we can talk about the last 2 weeks if we can remember that far back. But how has your last week or two been? What have you been up to?
I have been drawing more, still not matching what I set out for a goal in our personal and professional goals from the last episode, but I feel pretty good. Again, at least at the beginning, just the intentionality and being aware of whatever your goal that you're trying to do or habit that you're trying to start or keep up. Sometimes just the awareness first is a really good part. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping that will transition into me keeping up with the goal and in the same sort of what's the word I'm looking for? At least the continuity and consistency with the amount of times that I wanted to set for drawing. So that was pretty good. What else has like really been going on? We added another team member over to the web team at Progressive Dental. His name's Mark. He will be taking over some of the stuff that I had been doing recently
Mm-hmm.
because we have been pretty slammed and had an increase in phase one/web projects in the last like 2 months. And so he'll be able to alleviate a bunch of that. And I'll be able to move more into the role that I am supposed to be in, which is more of the development stuff. Actually, tomorrow, I'll be talking about this probably as we do housekeeping next week. But I'll be
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to do some dev stuff and fixing some bugs, issues, and doing some fixes for at least two of the custom themes that we do and push out for our clients. They are the most often used. They're the newest ones, and so they have a lot of popularity. One, they're a lot more visual than the two others that are in circulation, which I haven't really even been a part of, like designing in or like implementing those themes for the clients. Those I'm usually just getting if we're adding, changing, removing content to particular client sites. And so he's been doing really well. He's already got his first site almost all done. He's going through some of
Oh,
the
nice.
self QC QA changes. and some of those end of the pipeline sorts of going over dotting I's, crossing T's sort of deal before we even get it to AMs and the web manager to look at, and then sending it out to the client. So he's already almost through his first site, and he just started last week. This is his second week here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
I remember you
yeah.
saying that he was coming on the last time we recorded. And you said you had mentioned something about writing some processes, some SOPs for that. How did those come along? Is he basing some of his work off of that, or that's still a work in progress?
He's got to see some of the older ones, and then that coupled with the videos that a lot of the department managers had done, he's been able to watch a lot of those videos, and they seem to have helped a lot, sort of automating some of the education. Because again, you're familiar with this in a bunch of your roles, that taking away some of the production time from managers or other developers, designers, to help get the newer hires acclimated and onboarded and more aware of how the system works for any agency / department. And so that can take away from a couple people's productivity when they're helping. So that is nice to be able to have that in circulation, so that it's a lot quicker for them, and they can go at their own pace, or watch it again, or check it out again in the evening. Because he was very dedicated. He was doing that a couple nights last week too. We knew that he was rewatching and getting a little bit more familiarized, like at home and stuff. And he is making the trek that I used to make. He's driving from Orlando every day.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That is a bit of a drive.
Yeah. So it's gotta be rough, because he's got kids up there. And so he's like leaving at like he's getting here at like 7:30. So I was doing similar, because if you get stuck on I-4,
yeah,
and you're still halfway out from Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area, it's a long trek just getting there.
You're either getting up early and being in the Clearwater area at 6, or you're going to be there at noon. There's no in between.
Yeah,
you don't want to get stuck.
So good on him. I don't know what's going on up there around your neck of the woods, but purposely I was looking down here for jobs to be closer to Christine Mason, but like, he just said it was difficult landing agency jobs up there, and he seems pretty experienced. Again, he's gotten the hang of it pretty quickly. And now I know that our workflow enables us to work at the pace that we do, but again, for his first 2 weeks here, he's already running through it. So I'm like, how? Again, I'm glad that we got him.
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I still see, I'm not looking right now, but I'm still getting notifications from LinkedIn and Indeed about jobs up there. So I'm not sure what they're looking for.
Yeah,
but he's doing
hard to tell.
So
I mean, there are jobs, agency jobs in this area. It's just a matter of pay scale and stuff and all that too. And
yeah,
seems Clearwater has more opportunities just in terms of what's available for like different price range, like higher price ranges and stuff, like salaries and stuff.
What that is? Yeah, you're not wrong about that. And then some people are looking for very particular skill sets too. Like, we were looking for someone who has a lot of experience, as we'll be talking about tonight, in the specific page builder we use to build websites. If he was someone who wrote custom themes, and that's what they're looking for their particular roles and positions in Orlando, then he's a perfect fit. But everyone's needs are a little bit different. So they might need someone who specifically creates widgets or just creates landing pages for traffic to get to. So I'm sure a little bit of that too. But
for sure.
So that's a lot of what's been going on the last couple of weeks.
Nice. Yeah, for me, a lot of the last, 2 weeks, especially this last week or so, has been kind of photography related, which is good. That was one of my personal goals, was to sort of be more involved in just kind of photography stuff in general.
Yes.
And in in saying that and doing that, I don't remember which came first, but sort of manifested this volunteer contribution role within the WordPress Photo Directory. And so a lot of what I've been doing in the last week or so has been, I guess personally, you know, I'm able to do some of that as part of work since it's still contributing back to the WordPress project and the WordPress ecosystem and all of that. But a fair amount of this has come sort of on personal time. Like I said, I've been getting up early, so I've had some personal time to be able to dive into some of these things. Last week, no, I guess it was 2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago, I busted the camera out, and our church had a pop-up event and served some donut holes and hot chocolate, and asked for some photographers to come just take pictures and kind of capture the event, get all the fun photos, all the colorful photos and stuff of the different donut holes and people just enjoying it. It was cold out, so everyone was enjoying the hot chocolate. Florida cold, but it was Florida cold out, so people were enjoying the hot chocolate and enjoying a snack, and I was just there to take some pictures and stuff. So that was the sort of picture taking part of it, and then the rest of the photo stuff over the last few weeks has been submitting more photos to the WordPress Photo Directory. I have in my notes that we passed 1,000 photos in the directory, but at this point we're, I think, over 1,300 in the photo directory. And so I've been uploading a fair number of photos to that. And then, like I said last time, I'm a moderator in that too. So moderating lots of other folks' photos as they upload them to make sure that the directory is, the highest quality photos that we can offer. It is an open source, free way for people to use photos in their website projects and any project that you need a photo for. But that doesn't mean we just want it to be any and every photo possible. So we do have some guidelines that the photos do need to pass those guidelines to be able to be added to the directory. And so there's a small handful of us doing photo moderation at the moment, and we've just been focusing on making sure that the directory is high quality photos and all of that. One of my other goals was to bolster the development and just keep on top of different development stuff. One of the things that I haven't really dug a whole lot into is the WordPress Rest Api. I haven't really had a need for it, but with the photo directory, what I wanted to do was add a page on my site, on my personal site, that just pulls in the photos that I've submitted to the directory. And so what I started doing is looking at using the WordPress REST API that's, obviously behind the WordPress Photo Directory. The WordPress Photo Directory is running on WordPress. And so it also has the WordPress REST API built in, and using some of that to learn how I might be able to pull photos from the directory to my site and do it in a way that's, performant and gets just the data that it needs to. I did it in JavaScript, but I've also done a little bit of tinkering with it now inside of PHP. Another one of the moderators had wanted a way to add an RSS feed of the photos to their RSS reader. And so I was like, well, that might be something I can do now that I've played with the REST API a little bit. I know how to pull those images in. We talked either a couple weeks or before that, we talked a little bit about how I had built an RSS feed of our GoDaddy Pro events to be able to distribute those as well. So I have a little bit of experience from that on how to structure an RSS feed. And so I sort of coupled that with what I was learning about the WordPress REST API for pulling in photos, and created an RSS feed that we can also subscribe to see all of the photos that are coming into the directory through our RSS readers. So just kind of tinkering with a few different code bases. Like I said, some JavaScript, some PHP, some RSS stuff. At some point, I think it was last week, I did put out a video on our Heading to YouTube channel, which checked another box of, doing that.
Yeah, buddy.
In that time. And that's all about how I pulled in the photos from the WordPress REST API that were mine onto the page, and then looked a little bit at a couple of the REST API limitations there. and how to overcome a couple of those to make sure that you can load all of the photos into the page and everything. So we'll leave a link to that in the show notes, I'm sure. And it's on our Heading to YouTube channel. I'm going to try and keep adding content to that here as we go along. Probably a bit for the next few weeks is going to be WordPress Rest API related, just because that's what I've sort of dug into. To kind of couple along with that, what I ended up doing this past week, really within the last couple of days, is wrote my first Chrome extension as well. And
how was that? Also, what does it do?
It's also for the WordPress Photo Directory. And what it does is when you're on the WordPress Photo Directory page, looking at the different authors and the different photos, what you can't do right now is like favorite any of those, and not favorite in the like social sense where like you can favorite it and other people can see that you favored it. And then photos have, whatever, 10, 15 hearts or whatever. Not really in the social sense, but more like a bookmark type thing.
Yes, that's what I use. That's what I use Dribbles for. Is that it's for the social part, but yes, I use that for my own reference to come back. Yeah, okay, that's
so
cool.
If you come across an author or photo that you really like and you just want to kind of bookmark that in a place so you can come back to it, that's what that particular Chrome extension does. It's written in JavaScript. It saves all that stuff to local storage on your browser. So it's not going to move with you from machine to machine, but it's also not sending any data to a server or anything. It's all bundled right into your browser. And so when you're on the photos directory and looking at authors and photos, it adds a little button for authors to be able to favorite them, and also to photos to be able to favorite them. And then when you do that, there's a little, whatever you call it, a drawer, right, that slides out from the right side of the screen. And that opens up, and then the top half is your favorite authors and the bottom half is your favorite photos. And it's like a little thumbnail gallery and everything, so you can see the photos and then use that to quickly be able to click over to them if you want to download the photos. So it's just a nice way to sort of comb through the catalog of photos, and when you spot ones that you like, you can kind of save them for later. I guess it's more like clipping them. You're clipping them into the drawer so that you can access them again quickly later. And I have some ideas for other things that I want to do to enhance the extension and build it up some, but built that, and I've built a couple of Chrome extensions before, but this is the first one that I've actually published to the web store so that it's widely available for everyone. So it's called WP Fave Photos, and I'm sure I'll put a link to that in the notes as well if you want to go check that out and interested in, clipping, bookmarking those authors and photos from the WordPress Photo Directory.
Sorry for interjecting. For your extension, did you use a thumbs up, a heart, a bookmark, or a star? And what made you say favorite as opposed to liking, hearting, or any of the other terms that are kind of interchangeable with those sorts of actions on the web?
Yeah, I chose a heart. I think I chose a heart because it was just a simple icon, and it's, nice and succinct, and people know what it means. And so, the buttons that say fave author, fave photo do have little hearts next to them.
Nice.
If you haven't, it's like an empty gray heart. And if you do, then it fills in red. And it's just using the emojis that are widely available. And I guess I hadn't really considered too much the wording, the terminology that I decided to use. But I think I went with favorite because it was actually the least social media-like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Like, liking something is very, I mean, I use the heart, which is Twitter's icon for liking something, but like reminds me of, like Facebook when you like posts and stuff. So I was trying to sort of steer clear of it feeling like a social thing and more like a bookmark thing, but bookmark was too long. I could have done like clip author or clip photo, but I think it would have been less obvious, less intuitive what that's actually doing.
Yeah.
And so I just went with fave.
I like that. I only asked because, that is a very important thing. I think maybe sometimes people outside the industry think of user experience and UI design as just, and maybe there's not a lot of thought behind it, but even just little things like that have a very big purpose. And again, we're looking at psychology of people, community, audience when we're designing even something that is not as big as a full website or a feature and a function that I think that it's helpful to understand some of, at least your thought process behind that, even just making something like a favorite sort of extension so that you can grab onto this sort of thing. So yeah, thank you for indulging.
Yeah, on some level, I guess what I wanted to do also was make sure that people knew that, or people didn't feel like any data was being sent out.
Sure.
And so not having the like terminology or anything like that, I think helps ease people into knowing, that, I mean, I made it clear on the extension page and stuff too, but make it clear that this data is staying with you on your browser. It's just for you. It's just going to be in this drawer that's over on the side for you. This isn't being saved anywhere. It's not going into a database. It's not being sent to a server or anything like that. So I think a lot of it was just that there's, you're right. A lot of times design is all about aesthetics for people, but there's really a whole lot more that goes into design. There's the emotional, the accessibility, the privacy, and all of that has to be taken into consideration for design as well.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's really cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, so a lot of different code things in the past week, which is fun. But that's mostly what I've been doing. I had, the usual, a couple of GoDaddy Pro events that we did in the last couple of weeks since we recorded. And I've been writing my own documentation and stuff, some SOPs on our end for how to run events, from all the way from confirming and inviting a speaker to come talk to, what happens a couple weeks after the event, all the different emails and social content and the actual event itself and everything that goes into it. So been working on that a bit as well.
Ooh,
So
that's exciting. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's basically my week. I think we've rambled enough, or at least I have. So let's get into our main topic here and talk a little bit about page builders. For sort of the format of this section, since you are actually at an agency working with page builders, I figured maybe we'd sort of structure this a little bit, maybe pseudo interview style, and I'll ask you a handful of questions, and then I'll just kind of provide some additional thoughts on those if I have any. I do use page builders and the like for side projects and for our heading to site and stuff, so not totally out of the loop there, but you are in it day to day, and so I figured I would go ahead and ask you to get started. The first question I have is sort of more broad, not specific to you or the company or page builder. Well, it's about page builders, but not any specific page builder. And that is just, how do you think that page builders have changed web design and development?
Well, I think for one, which is a major one, which is good for people who aren't developers or super techie, is that they're kind of the ultimate sort of WYSIWYG editors, so to speak. And for anyone that doesn't know, that's what you see is what you get. And so a lot of sort of even basic text editors are considered WYSIWYG, even if it's as little as adding just headings and lists and photos. And so they have grown a lot. And what I think has changed the most is that it makes it more accessible to people who wouldn't feel comfortable with the coding side or even the design portion of the site pre getting onto, into the browser, because you get to build and design and lay out things in the browser. It's almost like a canvas in your painting, so to speak. And so it frees you up to make decisions on the fly and pretty quickly. And they are, at least for very, very simple and beginning novice type stuff, they're pretty intuitive to just kind of block something out. And so I think that it's made creating a website for yourself or for your small business or for a local organization or anything that you're into, even if it's just you want to let people know about art you're making or little craftsy things that you're putting up and whether or not it's for sale or if it's just portfolio or just almost like a catalog and getting information out, or just sharing something that you love and wanting a space for that, it makes it a very easy way to get into and enter the space, and it takes out a lot of barriers and walls that can kind of deter or almost frighten people from putting their stuff out there. And so I love that about it. And so I think that that's changed the web design and web development in that sense. And then on the not as this one is a con. I'll just say con. You know me. I'm very glasses half full, and so I try to stay away from almost negative types of comments. But this one is a con where
it's okay. Feel free to call it out if there's a negative aspect.
Yes, I've been working on that for myself, and so it's a little bit of a con where it kind of downplays the importance of agencies and professional web builders, where we're making those types of decisions in design and layout and actual structure of content that gives a purpose for what we're putting out there to people. Because a lot of times it's more, as you mentioned earlier, it's not just, just designing something. There is often intention in it, and there's a lot of solution and problem solving in the act of designing. So that's in my mind, that's the major difference between art and design. Art can be made and created, and then whatever the audience sees, a lot of interpretation is left up to them or whoever is observing the art. But design has a purpose with the intent of, as you were saying, either striking an emotional chord, which art also does, and so there's overlap. Mm-hmm. But design has a purpose of getting somebody to take an action or make a choice or to make a decision or change their mind about something. And so I think that it makes it so that some people or businesses or other industries will think that web design shouldn't, or development isn't worth the value, or is valued less because more people can essentially do it. And I don't know, I'm doing air quotes because no one can see us, but essentially,
I'm over here flailing my arms around all the time too, and nobody can see any of it.
That's right. Maybe sometime in the future we'll get video on, and we'll have these up on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. But
we'll
yeah,
see.
so I think that it's changed. Yes. So I think that those are two major changes, is that it made it very accessible to everyone, but in making it accessible for everyone, that it's devalued some portions of the process itself.
It's interesting to me that you drew the distinction there, the line between art and design. So just sort of to backfill a little bit, because I realized that we didn't really talk too much about what a page builder is. You kind of described it a little bit, but in terms of like WordPress building sites historically, to make the page or any number of pages look the way that you want them to look, there's a lot of code involved.
Yes.
There are some ways with plugins and stuff to shortcut a little bit of that, but a lot of it just came down to coding templates for the different pages and homepage and everything. So what happened at some point was page builders, there are different companies that created their own page builders, came along and decided, what if there was a way where we could easily have an interface where people could drop, different sections or widgets or whatever the different page builders call them onto a page visually, and to be able to rearrange them and add content to them and style them all in a very visual way that didn't require code. So, like you said, there's definitely a distinction between art and design there, and where you said there's that negative where it seems like, well, now we've made developing sites so easy, what do we even need an agency for, right? Well, the reality is that the whole time, what should have been happening, and this is sort of just a perspective shift, is that agencies are generally hired for strategy, for
Yes.
building the business, for achieving goals, achieving results. And coding was a means to make that happen.
Yep.
And,
Right.
and
Right.
and now page builders are a means to make that happen. But what you're not doing if you're hiring an agency generally is you're not hiring them to build the site. I mean, you are, but that's a byproduct of hiring them to get you to what your goals are for that site or for your
Yeah.
business.
Thank you for making that distinction. Yes, absolutely.
So, yes, there is art and design involved, but the art and design is something that you need to do to be able to achieve the actual end results for those clients. And so, while yes, there is that negative, if you want to call it that, I mean, it is that it's sort of undervalued the development
Overall,
portion overall.
Yes.
But I think that the fact that that's even being looked down upon now is just that people are looking at what you're hiring an agency for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so while I think you're right, I think there is a perspective shift that needs to happen there where, like, yes, we wrote code and now it's a little bit easier, but it's a little bit easier for us to do the thing that you hired us for. And that's where the bulk of what you're paying us for is the end results, is, you know, creating the end product, and how we get there just happens to be a little bit different than it used to be. So I guess sort of the segue from that, what made you want to use a page builder in the first place?
Well, as you were saying, it shortcuts some of the process of the coding portion. Again, not only for people that are just getting into web design and web development, for actual web developers who even understand and know how to pretty expertly, up to any level, but expert level as well, that can write code and templates and everything. This makes the process to the end result of the actual website being built and pushed live and launched quicker in a lot of instances. Now, there are some portions of page builders that still don't get to certain portions of web development. So you mentioned a couple services that kind of lend themselves to the advent of page builders within WordPress. Companies like Wix, Squarespace are two of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And, that is what lent itself to helping agencies create products such as websites to, even quicken the timeline of projects. And so I think that for me as an individual web developer, designer, and for a lot of agencies, that again, that helps us get more clients and get the clients' needs met at a quicker pace, and it makes it available to scale the website number of websites that you can get accomplished within a period of a month, 2 months, and whatever the timeframes are, is you get to kind of pump them out more quickly. And that is one reason. And then so it is also very easy to at least in the last couple of years, where you can template and reuse portions, pages, and even sections of the website as you design them within the page builder, that you get a lot of repeated use, and then you can template them, copy and paste, and move things over. And even in the last 2 years, and then as you probably got to do in the demo of the built-in full site editing within WordPress, is that a lot of the page builders have been giving more opportunity and options for global settings and full site settings, as opposed to needing to say, even before the advent and the emergence of CMS. Before that, you would have to build portions of the website, but you'd have to do them over and over again. So if you had 50 pages on a website and you wanted to change the footer, you would have to go through every indexed page on the site and change the footer. And so having the modularity and automation and generating the particular renderings of pages and sections and even just little widgets is what makes page builders very, very prominent, and they're just going to keep growing and growing. And something that's fascinating is I'm not sure if Elementor has launched this portion yet, but it seems that they're going a little bit more of the ways of a Wix and a Squarespace, where they're starting, or at least there are talks of them doing hosting as a service of theirs too. So you can just roll that all into one. So they might be in competition with the WordPress, in the next year or so. And it gets to be a little bit of Wild West and space exploration in web design and development land. But yeah, that's what I feel like makes a lot of people want to use page builders. Again, is just the ease and modularity and like repeatability of these things that can help development go by more quickly.
Definitely. I think that we probably worked through looking at different page builders together when we were working at agency together. And so I do think that companies like Wix and Squarespace put a little bit of pressure, especially on smaller agencies, to adapt to ways that websites could be built faster. Definitely a lot of the marketing campaigns for those proprietary page building softwares, they definitely touted that short time, right? You could have this up within an hour. You can have a website. And that, on one hand is true, but also isn't. We don't need to get into that necessarily. But definitely some pressure was put on smaller agencies, especially that don't have the manpower to crank out websites that quickly. And so there's definitely a need there to find ways to speed up the design and development process, and in a way that didn't shortcut the actual final results. And I think that's where page builders have really thrived, is that they've been able to provide a way for sites to be designed and built quickly without sacrificing design.
For sure. Yep. Quality is, yes.
Because a lot of the ones that I see, and, from experience being able to use some of the different ones, they have some really great tools in there to make the sites look really nice. And we even, when we were looking at page builders to begin with, we before that would design all of our sites in a image editing software first and get the approval on those before we started coding, because it just took a long time to code those things. So when we moved over to using a page builder, we actually just started designing the sites in the page builder in the browser, and we're able to offer that to clients and say, hey, this is what it's going to look like, because this is it. It's already built. All you have to do is okay it, and we'll just continue running with this theme, not an actual theme, but this, concept and design throughout the rest of the website into some of the sub pages and stuff. But we had already, at that point, once it's approved, the homepage is already built, and we could move on to different sections. So definitely a time thing for the most part. Of course, that always lends itself to money. Time is money, right? The faster you can get them done, the easier it is to land the clients in the first place. If you tell them it's going to take 8 weeks, it's going to be a lot harder to get them to sign on than if it's going to take 4 weeks.
Yes, sir.
But then also, if you can do a new site for a client every 4 weeks, then you can also take on more clients. So, definitely a lot of things there that we considered. Most of it had something to do with time and some combination of time and money. I already know the answer to this, but did you settle on one? If you did, which one and why?
Yes. So as you just mentioned, at the first agency we were at, we were tasked with finding a page builder to use.
Yeah.
And pretty unanimously, we landed on Elementor. I will say, at the last agency I was at, Next Horizon, we used 2 to 3 page builders. They were a lot more heavy on using Beaver Builder, So that was before I even got there. I had tried to convince them about the awesomeness of Elementor. Now, again, there aren't a lot of differences between the big heavy hitters, like the top 3 or 4, like Elementor, Beaver Builder, Divi, Breezy. There's a handful of other ones. And again, these also came about because some of the themes that people were, the template themes that people were selling had some of these options and made it a little bit easier to push out the designs when you were making the websites. And so with these coming out, there wasn't a lot to sort of differentiate between them. But the thing that, at least for Beaver Builder and for Elementor, I will say Beaver Builder did have a lot of third-party stuff and extensions within their own community, and the company itself that built the plugin was that they had a little bit more extensibility for functions and features than some of the other ones. And the stuff that made Elementor like really stand out is one, it's very, it keeps moving forward, like with the up and coming trends, like adding things for animations and engagement and micro interactions that made it stand out a little bit more above the other ones. So you could have some of the nice interactions and flowing and movement and parallax things and animations of elements coming on the page and leaving the page, and things that were a little bit more reserved for someone to have to code with, JavaScript in accordance with CSS. And so that was one thing that made Elementor stand above the others, was that you could have a little bit more pretty interactions,
more of
and
the
beautiful
art
stuff. Yes, a lot more arty. And then another thing that also made it stand above the other ones was its power and versatility. And so one thing that I found frustrating with Beaver Builder was it was a lot harder to work with custom post types and things like WooCommerce and other plugins if you wanted to be able to in the back end grab that information so that you could display it. Elementor made it so that it was a lot more, it was easier to kind of have the plugins talk to each other, and especially with Elementor, so that you could have more complex and more feature-rich sites because of all the stuff that they're taking into account from developer and community. Was that they made it so that, it didn't just work with posts. Like you if you wanted to make a listing of, say, your team members, or if you were making a site for cars and stuff like that, or like toys or selling products, it wasn't as easy with these other page builders to have that stuff generate the views and displays and render that stuff out for audience and users to see. And so that was another thing, like by and large, that makes Elementor stand out, is that you could go ahead and make your designs with these things in mind and pull that information and get the products up there, and the specialty sorts of post types that weren't strictly blog articles. And so that was, and for some of it, you still need an extra plugin or two, like Elementor Custom Skin. But again, that just broke it out of the box to be able to make more custom designs. And so, that's at an agency, that's a big thing that a lot of clients are looking for, is that they don't want to have a templated looking site, which is why they're not strictly going to a service like Wix or Squarespace, is that, they don't want to pick from a handful of templates and designs. They still want something that will make them stand out from other dental practices or fishing charter captains, stuff like that. And so that's a big one for Elementor, was its extensibility.
It's no secret that our heading to site is also Elementor. That's definitely the one that we settled on. Like you said, we sort of started this discovery of what we wanted to do page builder wise when we were working together at an agency, we settled on Elementor. And although you've done some work with some of the other ones, I actually haven't. I've really only worked with Elementor. In sort of prepping for this podcast episode, I looked up a couple of stats for some of these.
Hit us with them.
Really just Beaver Builder and Elementor. And even though Beaver Builder has been around a couple years longer, it started in 2014 versus Elementor's 2016. The thing that stood out to me, I think, is they both have communities built around them that have developed additional plugins and all of that. But Beaver Builder as a company is about 25 employees from what I could tell. And Elementor is roughly over 300. And so
wow.
I think that that's part of what you're saying is the additional art, the additional integration with WooCommerce, integration with custom post types and all of that is clearly going to be a whole lot easier to develop when you have 300 employees versus 25 employees. I know that's a little bit of rich getting richer, right? They've got the 300, so they're going to be able to build things. So they're going to sell more Elementor licenses so they can hire even more employees. And, it kind of snowballs like that. But I think that you're right. No shade to Beaver Builder. But we've sort of landed on Elementor for several reasons. And it's been really great. I've been enjoying, like you said, being able to, when we were at the agency together, be able to streamline some of our processes to be able to offer really nice looking, really well functioning sites to clients in a shorter timeline, and being in that way, being able to serve and delight and everything those clients even more than we could before having page builders and having to code everything. I mean,
yes,
I feel like we had nice designs before that and our clients were generally happy with them, but the timelines were definitely much longer, which then reduced the number of clients that we could serve in a year because we had a small team. And so all of that I feel like has been really beneficial. And then I know at Progressive Dental that you all use Elementor there.
That is
daily,
correct.
right?
Yes, daily. Yes.
And have you even built your own sort of plugins and processes on top of that to even enhance that even more? So let's switch over to talking a little bit about full site editing. I know it's relatively new. It was introduced in some capacity if you also had the Gutenberg plugin installed in WordPress 5.7, I believe.
Okay.
You did have to have the Gutenberg plugin to extend using a block-based theme to even get into the full site editing editor and tinker with it. But as of WordPress 5.9 now, the default editing experience out of the box is the 2022 block theme, which means the full site editing. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play with it a little bit.
I have not.
Do you think that you see a scenario where you or Progressive Dental or would switch to the built-in full site editing? And maybe why or why not? Do you have some thoughts around full site editing and as it pertains to your daily work day in and day out?
My only thoughts towards it are not for the foreseeable future. Again, I haven't got a chance to get around there and play with it. But as well as anyone who's involved in any kind of organization. And then again, with my trouble trying to get Next Horizon to switch from Beaver Builder to Elementor, is you kind of get into a rhythm and familiarity with whatever you're using at the moment. I mean, even when we switched to Elementor at our first agency at Thrive, that still took research and convincing and like thorough talking through because of the uncertainty of how well it would work in our overall process and over and over and over again, and its scalability. So for the time being, I don't see us moving over. And again, because as you mentioned just a bit ago, we have myself and Brendan and our offsite team of developers led by Richard, is that, we have our own custom plugins and customization that we have going between some of the back-end customization global stuff that then talks to Elementor and fills in some of the design choices so that designers can make those choices on the back end and then make tweaks when they get to sections and pages. If, you know, a section has a dark background, then you got to change the heading color. But so we use some of that. So we have the Elementor theme site settings. We've got the WordPress site settings and Elementor individual page and templating stuff that all kind of talk to each other and work off of everyone's favorite word, proprietary sorts of developing modules and customizations that we use. And so it would be a long time before we move to almost anything different. Brendan, one of our developers, has been, talking about even doing stuff from scratch because, as you know, because of Elementor's power and versatility, there are things for particular websites or clients that we won't use, but that are there that will bog down and slow down the site and make it less performant. And so even there, we kind of had to figure out ways to where we can compensate for that. And Elementor, again, like you were saying, because of how long they've been around and how many people are on their team, that they've been able to, cut down on some of the performance hits and move things around to make it more performant and crash less. But because they do work well with so many other plugins and third-party stuff, is that it's hard to always keep track and account for all of the mishaps that will happen between the plugins talking to each other. So, either the third parties are updating stuff or Elementor's coming up with mini releases that kind of compensate for that. And so if anything, if that were to be the case, if we moved on from that, we might have talks of doing the built-in full site editing. But for now, we're pretty okay with the balance that we've got as far as designing, developing, and getting out sites and making sure they're performant and all that stuff working in harmony together in the process itself. And so for the time being, I don't see that being something that we're even talking about.
That makes sense.
So I mean, it is cool. I mean, because it takes me back to, when people were developing their own plugins for us as artists in Photoshop. It made Photoshop better because they started implementing some of those features and tools and tool sets to help the artist to be able to do that stuff quicker. And so I think that is at least part of the motivation for Automatic and WordPress doing that stuff, is that the developers and the artists and the designers don't have to go somewhere else, because again, that can bog down the site. But it's nice to sometimes have all that stuff in one package. And so again, there will always be not even just outliers, but there will be reasons for having page builders and other stuff, because again, as we found from doing stuff in the Heading 2 site, that Elementor still doesn't is not the solution to every problem or issue we have. We're still using CSS and JavaScript and jQuery to make some things happen and have some of the animation interactions and some of the mobile stuff working. And so, it's always like, that's one of the awesome things about what we get to do, is that we get to kind of work magic with all these different things. And so I love that, and I can't complain too much. But yeah, I don't think anytime soon, to answer your question with a super long answer, that not anytime soon.
So to be fair to full site editing, I would tend to agree with you at the moment. I really like what WordPress is trying to do, what the WordPress team is trying to do with full site editing. And I want to say that currently, even though that is what is installed out of the box with the 2022 blocks theme, that is actually still in beta mode at the moment. And so all it takes at this time to not use full site editing is to use a theme that isn't a block theme. So right. 2022 out of the box is, but 2020, which was the previous default, is not. or WooCommerce's free theme is called Storefront.
Yes.
Using any of those, or there are thousands of other non-block themes currently. I believe there are about 50 block themes. There are thousands of other ones. So as long as you aren't using one of the block themes, then your WordPress experience is going to be much like it always has been. The block editor itself is still in there, but you're only using that maybe for content here and there, and not for styling and designing the whole site. So what I think, like Beaver Builders, like 8 years or so, Elementor at 6 years, what I'm seeing is that they've had that time to really sort of nail down what it is they're offering and how it works and the experience. There's been a lot of time for third parties to develop plugins that interface and integrate with those. And so there's just a really rich ecosystem of design work and thought and everything around these that I do think full site editing will get to at some point. As much as I love Elementor and Beaver Builder and Oxygen and all the other ones, they're very strong out of the gate. They definitely revolutionized the way that websites are built, but they have sort of plateaued a little bit, right? I mean, if you, like you were talking about, and well, the next question is a little bit about looking into the future. But like you talked about, Elementor is sort of looking at other ways that they can offer what they currently have.
Yep.
Rather than necessarily finding that next, I hate to say it, revolutionary thing to do. I wouldn't call it necessarily officially a plateau, but I think that full site editing, the built-in full site editing, still has the opportunity to catch up to where the other page builders are over the next few years. And it's going to take a little bit of time. The benefit, of course, is that there are sort of these niche communities for Elementor and for Beaver Builder and for Divi and the other ones, where full site editing, it's not a niche community. It's all of WordPress. And so
yes,
it's definitely going to be a much larger group of folks working on creating solutions and creating blocks and creating just ways to make the full site editing experience better. So I think in that sense, it'll get there faster than maybe some of the other ones took to get to where they currently are. But I agree with you. Right now, it's still pretty early. Again, it's in beta. So I would encourage everyone to install WordPress 5.9 with a block theme and give it a try and just see what's working, what's not quite fitting the bill for you, especially in terms of how it might compare to some other page builders if you're using a page builder already. And then submit all of that feedback to the WordPress project, because they're always looking for ways. If you do have development chops, maybe think about developing something for that. If you don't, that feedback is still very valuable, and making sure that you bring that back to the WordPress community, let people know what it is that you'd love to see, because I'm sure that at some point it'll be built if you ask for it. So I guess sort of segueing from that into the last question I have in this section here, just briefly, I guess, is what do you think maybe the future of page builders looks like, whether that's Elementor or full site editing? I kind of talked a little bit about what I think full site editing looks like. What do you think the future of these page builders inside the WordPress project or not looks like?
Ooh, I did imagine that maybe a couple of the others would join Elementor and give some offerings for hosting that would help pay for them too. Again, they'd be bringing in money to maybe work on other features and stuff. Outside of that, I didn't really have any thoughts on it. I'm not a futurist, but
I think that's a fair point, though. I think that's a good observation with Elementor offering hosting. I personally think that some of these page builder platforms are going to continue to grow. I mean, WordPress continues to grow in market share across the web, but to not be tied to WordPress's growth necessarily, some of these page builders, I think, will expand outside of the WordPress ecosystem. There'll always be a piece that's within the WordPress ecosystem. That's where they've started. That's where they've got, those niche communities and stuff that follow along. But I do think, like you said, offering the hosting right now, I think is a stopgap for them, because right now it's still offering WordPress hosting that has Elementor on it. I think it's
Yes.
I think it's a step in the direction of offering a hosted solution that looks a little bit more like Squarespace and Wix, that
Yes.
maybe has WordPress under the hood, maybe doesn't, but is definitely minimized to some degree to let kind of the Elementor platform shine through. And I think some of the others will follow suit if that happens to, be profitable, be successful for them. But I do think that that's kind of a natural direction for the page builders to move, especially again as full site editing within WordPress becomes more and more popular. There's no doubt, even if it's just a small percentage, that folks will move to using full site editing over some of these as soon as it becomes feature rich enough to be able to do that. And that will cut into, Elementor and Beaver Builder and Brizzy and all that into their share of the WordPress ecosystem. And so for them to continue to expand, I think they'll have to not move to, but also be involved in like Drupal and Joomla platforms, or like I said, creating their own hosting system that looks a lot more like Wix and Squarespace, where they're the builder of, the website, and you don't worry about what's under the hood. You're just building this website on the page builder. So that's what I think the future looks like. I don't know. Only time will tell, I guess, right?
That's true.
All right. I think we've talked enough about that. We're getting a little long on time anyways. So let's head into our last section here and just talk a little bit about real quick what our upcoming weeks look like. TJ, you want to start us off there? What does your upcoming week look like?
Well, you've just talked me into doing a WordPress install with 5.9 and playing with the full site editor. So that will definitely be in there. I also have a freelance gig possibly coming up in the next 2 weeks. And so I'll probably be meeting
a new one.
Yes. Nice. Yes. And so this one, I might have to pick your brain on some stuff because we're probably going to use WooCommerce. I'm not entirely sure until we meet with the client, but we may be doing something with courses and course offerings. And so I'm excited because I haven't worked on projects that have like a couple features and functions outside of being a site that just like mostly just gives information. Because so again, I'll have to get a feel for some of the core functionality that the client will be looking for. But there's definitely going to be using a couple plugins to make some of this magic happen. Signups, memberships, and courses. So yeah, I'm excited. And then it's got video courses and stuff. So
that's awesome.
So that'll be happening. And then again, this probably won't be till the week after that we talk about the previous week housekeeping stuff, but I am excited to get in there and play with some of the themes and stuff because I haven't been able to do that yet. And so getting in there, looking at the bugs and doing some fixes will be cool because again, I've just been doing a lot of like editing and site changes, so I'm sure I'll come up against a lot of frustration as well.
Join me in programming land.
Yeah, so that's what the next week will look like.
Yeah, obviously these come out on Monday. We record them on Thursday nights usually. Tomorrow, Friday, GoDaddy is offering a wellness day offering. It's kind of a mandatory day off for everyone in the company, which is awesome. We have a couple of them coming up.
How dare they?
And tomorrow, yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a big deal when you think about the number of employees that work for GoDaddy. And there are a handful, maybe more than a handful. There are a select number of folks that are quote unquote essential.
Yeah,
they're essential folks. So, the care team, the support teams and stuff. And so
that's good. We have domains with you guys. So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have some folks that are essential, of course, that will still be around, and they've been told that they should speak with their managers about just picking a different day so that
Oh,
there's
that's really cool.
there's coverage, so everyone
Nice.
still gets the same gets the same days. So we have a
Okay.
wellness day tomorrow, and I plan on taking full advantage of that and just relaxing and just de-stressing and clearing my head and just focusing on some fun things and not worrying about too much else. Then next week I have semi-annual performance review. We have those twice a year, so I get to one-on-one with my manager to kind of talk about how the last, well, normally I guess it's the last 6 months, but I've only been part of this team with this manager for like 4 months. So the last 4 months have gone, and just chatting through that. I have 2 interviews that I'm giving, that people are interviewing with me for.
Yes.
They're actually rotational positions. We have a program within the company where people can sort of rotate through different teams to sort of get an idea for what those teams are doing and how they operate. And in some cases, they rotate out to different places, and sometimes if it's a good fit, then they end up being part of the team. So
all right, that's
I have
amazing.
a couple of other GoDaddy folks that I'm interviewing next week to at least temporarily be part of our team for a little while.
Okay.
Let me think of what else. We have a couple of GoDaddy Pro events next week, but I'm off from hosting those. My teammate Courtney, she'll be handling both of those. Actually, one she'll be hosting with Josh Pollock, who's coming on to talk about Plugin Machine, which is pretty exciting. He's going to come share about a product that he started to more quickly be able to spin up new plugins and then update features and stuff along the way. And so he's going to be sharing that on Wednesday, and then on Friday I guess this week, Courtney is also doing a call for testing on WordPress media functionality, and that's just going to be kind of a casual hangout. She's going to walk through just different aspects of WordPress within the new full site editing, where you are using imagery for like featured images or inserting images and blocks and all of that, seeing what's working well, what's not working as well, where there might be bugs, and then submitting that feedback back to the WordPress project and some people on the make team, on the testing team, to kind of get more of that cohesion between full site editing and photos, which I think will also in some small ways start to pull in some of the WordPress Photo Directory stuff, because I think that the eventual intention there is for some of that and or Openverse to make its way into WordPress's core media offering.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's plenty. I'm just looking forward to my wellness day tomorrow and just taking it easy a little bit and enjoying the weekend. I'm not a huge Super Bowl guy, but I do enjoy the commercials. So I will probably be doing that on Sunday, watching the game, cheering for whoever is down, because I just like to do that, and watching the commercials.
This is terrible because I played football in middle school and high school, but sometimes I even just wait to watch all the commercials on Hulu and YouTube.
Nice.
The following Monday. Please forgive me. Don't judge. I still love football, but yeah, sometimes I'll watch either segments of the game or highlights, depending on how exciting it is. I'm just a terrible sports fan. I love playing sports, but I don't watch them that much anymore.
That's fair. I enjoy the getting together and create, having lots of snacks, and then
yes,
I can sort of glance at the game while I'm walking over to the table to get snacks, and then I can get back in time for the commercials to come on, because I just like to see what's new or what's funny or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure I'll be doing that, and then this episode comes out on Monday, which is Valentine's Day, so I'm sure I'll be hanging out with my lovely wife and our girls and going out to dinner or something. So yeah, that's kind of what the next week or so looks like. I guess with that, I can go ahead and wrap us up here. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a favorable rating in your favorite podcast app or website. It makes a difference and helps others discover the show. To be notified when future episodes come out, please go ahead and subscribe as well. For more about us and what we're up to, check out our website, heading2.com, which I know that we're doing some more work on this week. TJ's already done a little bit, so Gonna keep that going, and follow us on Twitter at heading2. If you have any questions you'd like answered on the show, go ahead and send those to hello@heading2.com. And otherwise, thank you again for listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Bye, everyone.
See ya.